And if you could bring back one Avenger from the dead to star in another movie, who would it be?
I think RDJ, right? Wouldn't we want to see Robert Downey Jr. back?
Will we maybe see a Deadpool 4?
Oh, God, no.
Well, yeah, we developed the script 6 years ago, wrote this fantastic script. It leaked online and Deadpool fans went nuts for it. So the studio granted us a small amount of money to make test footage. This test footage that we shot then sat on the shelf for 4 years, as it does. They didn't do anything with it.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
Just to be clear, I'm not in Avengers Doomsday. All right, so that leaves us with 3 possible scenarios.
And I'm not exaggerating or trying to be funny. I wept. I like cried.
A rumor is growing fast that Robert Downey Jr. is having trouble on the set of his new Avengers film with Ryan Reynolds.
Jr. demanded reshoot. Behind the scenes issues with the actors are due to a clash of egos. Jeff Snyder claims that the production on Avengers Doomsday faced major setbacks involving Robert Downey Jr.
This has been a labor of love getting this made.
Yeah, it's been the best and worst relationship I've ever been in. 11 years I've been trying to get this movie made.
Marvel said we'll shoot your scene separately, or you can we'll figure it out in some other way.
God, no. My wife and children will divorce me. It will be capital B broke, and in turn, probably then doing Deadpool 4.
When Marvel unveiled the first look at Doctor Doom, the world was told it was witnessing history. A rebirth of the MCU. A chance for Disney to prove that after years of shaky mistakes, they could rise again. The armor glistened under the lights, casting a menacing reflection across the crowded expo hall. The throne imagery screamed comic accuracy, a dark promise of power, and a new era for villains. The glowing green eyes promised danger, a cold, calculated threat to anyone who would stand in his way. And the crowd inside that Chinese expo roared with excitement, a wave of noise that promised a glorious new future for the studio. To the audience, this was the future of Marvel. But to Chris Evans, who stood back and felt nothing but anger, it was something very different. Because behind all the flashing lights and the promises of greatness, he saw another desperate attempt to cover the cracks that had already torn the Marvel empire apart. This is the untold story of why Chris Evans walked away from Disney forever, a tale of betrayal, integrity, and the breaking of a golden soldier. Over a decade, Evans carried the shield. He was the golden soldier, the face of loyalty and sacrifice. Yet, he was never supposed to be Captain America. At least, not in his own mind. When Marvel first offered him the role, he hesitated for months.
Miss Thorne, I couldn't be happier than to be seeing you bring Riri Williams to life, but the hood has me nervous.
Paralyzed by the sheer weight of the decision, he admitted he was so concerned he drafted an actual pro and con list, weighing every potential outcome before signing. The positives were obvious, from long-term financial stability to career security and the possibility of stepping into directing. But the negatives weighed heavier, a suffocating list of fears. A complete and total loss of anonymity, constant exposure to paparazzi, and, most crushingly, the fear of being permanently trapped inside a role that would never let him go. Evans loved being able to walk down the street, go to a ball game, and enjoy life without cameras in his face. He knew that once he put on the stars and stripes, there would be no off switch, no escape from the spotlight. Still, he said yes. And in that choice, Marvel gained its golden soldier. But what fans didn't see was the contract that held him hostage. A 6-picture deal with Disney that stretched over a decade, leaving almost no room for retreat. The fears he wrote down on that list started to come true, planting the seeds of his eventual rebellion long before Avengers Doomsday ever appeared on the horizon. The Marvel method demanded more than acting skill. It demanded physical transformation at the cost of sanity. To sculpt himself into Steve Rogers, Evans went through hours of brutal training every single day, a grind that left him exhausted and sore. The physical pain was one thing, but he admitted the hardest part wasn't the gym, it was the food. He forced down endless plates of bland chicken and rice until eating became torture, a daily cycle of being stuffed sick and uncomfortable just to maintain the physique of a super soldier.
Hood Green, please tell me Mr. Ramos is not replacing me as Dr. Doom via Parker Robbins.
And even when the movies were done, the burden never disappeared. His entire identity was chained to the Captain America physique, and he could never escape it. Fans judged every change in his body, his beard, his weight, his face. If he looked bulked up, the rumors started, he's back as Cap. The contract is renewed. If he looked lean, the questions poured in. Is he done with Marvel? Is he not taking the role seriously anymore? That obsession with his body became the first sign that Disney controlled his life, not just his career, and it reached a boiling point in 2024. But that wasn't the whole story. That obsession reached a boiling point in 2024 at the Toronto Film Festival. Evans walked the red carpet with a clean-shaven face and a bulked-up frame, and instantly the internet exploded. Headlines screamed that he was secretly filming Avengers Doomsday. Fans compared his look to his Steve Rogers days and pointed out he never shaved the beard unless Marvel told him to. They claimed even in Deadpool and Wolverine, when he appeared as Human Torch, he wore a muscle suit just to avoid the endless gym cycles. But here he was, bulked up again, looking exactly like Captain America. For the public, it was proof he was back. But for Evans, it was a trap. Another reminder that no matter what he did, Disney controlled the narrative. The whispers turned into a storm. Online commentators dissected every photo of Evans at Toronto. Fans zoomed in on his jawline, his muscles, his clean shave. They said this was his Steve Rogers look, and Avengers Doomsday was right around the corner. The Russo brothers poured fuel on the fire with cryptic posts teasing, "Doomsday is coming," without ever mentioning Evans by name. To the fans, this was confirmation. To Evans, it was exploitation. The studio didn't even need his consent. They used his image, his body, and his silence as marketing tools. The speculation wasn't harmless, it was suffocating. Every shaved beard and every bulked chest became a headline about his secret comeback. And what happened next would shock everyone. Disney had one goal with Avengers Doomsday: to weaponize nostalgia and pull audiences back into theaters. They didn't care about story or legacy. They cared about ticket sales, and the multiverse gave them the perfect excuse to recycle old heroes. For executives, Evans was a tool, a familiar face they could drop in for applause. But for Evans, Steve Rogers wasn't just a role. It was a complete arc, one that ended in Endgame with meaning and closure. Reopening that story felt like a deep betrayal. Reports claim the studio wanted him to appear as multiverse variants, corrupted versions of the hero audiences had trusted for 10 years. To Evans, this was not creative exploration, it was mockery. It was as if they were asking him to destroy the very sacrifice Steve Rogers had made to protect his legacy. He had spoken before about protecting characters he loved and respecting what they stood for. Now, Disney was asking him to twist that very legacy into a gimmick. It wasn't just disrespectful to him. It was disrespectful to the fans who believed in Steve Rogers' sacrifice, a final act of greed that prioritized profit over principles. But the worst was yet to come. The deeper Evans pushed back, the harsher Disney became. Behind closed doors, reports claimed executives mocked his protectiveness. They laughed that he was too sentimental about Captain America, too serious about continuity. To them, he wasn't an artist with conviction. He was just an obstacle to be moved aside. They leaked photos of his physique to stoke rumors without his approval, turning his beard and his muscles into free marketing. At the same time, Robert Downey Jr. was being celebrated for his triumphant return. Downey was praised as the heart of Marvel, while Evans was treated like baggage. The double standard was clear. Disney honored one legacy while ridiculing another. Evans saw exactly what was happening. The same studio that once called him indispensable now reduced him to a punchline, all for asking that Steve Rogers' story be respected. That betrayal cut deeper than any contract dispute. Evans wasn't blind to history. He had seen what happened when other Marvel stars clashed with Disney, like Scarlett Johansson, who sued the studio over Black Widow's release strategy. If a secondary actor like Dave Bautista could risk everything by speaking out when they fired James Gunn, then what did that mean for Evans, the man who carried the shield for a decade? He had more leverage than anyone, yet he also had more to lose. The whispers of disrespect eventually turned into open wounds. Every interview Evans gave was picked apart, every word twisted into speculation, and every appearance spun into another Disney headline. But behind the curtain, the truth was harsher. Reports claimed that in creative meetings, his concerns were dismissed outright, that executives told him the multiverse wipes everything clean, so continuity didn't shouting matter. To Evans, that was the ultimate insult. 10 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice dismissed as a marketing trick. This was the moment when frustration hardened into finality. He wasn't just tired, he was done. The ridicule cut deeper than any physical burden he had endured. To be mocked for protecting a character who defined an entire generation felt unbearable. Rather than play along, Evans chose rebellion. He stepped back, not quietly, but decisively, making it clear that his Marvel journey was finished. When the news broke, headlines screamed that Chris Evans had quit Disney. To fans, it felt like a betrayal of trust, not by him, but by the studio that drove him away. The shockwaves were immediate. Hashtags like #ThankYouChris trended worldwide, while Boycott Disney erupted across social media. Fans replayed his Endgame farewell, lifting Mjolnir, whispering, "I can do this all day," and saying goodbye to Peggy Carter. These moments had been sacred, and now they were contrasted against leaked reports of executives mocking him behind closed doors. Avengers Doomsday was supposed to be Marvel's grand event, their answer to falling box office numbers, their proof that the Empire was still alive. But without Evans, the film's nostalgic magic collapsed. Robert Downey Jr.'s return could not mask the absence of Captain America. Analysts called it a blow to the brand, a reminder that Disney's grip on its stars was slipping. For years, Marvel's formula thrived on loyalty, but that loyalty was broken. Chris Evans leaving was no longer just a career move. It was a symbol of a studio that had lost its soul. With Marvel behind him, Evans turned toward freedom. His contract was finished, and his choices were his own again. He spoke about his love for smaller projects, films where intimacy mattered more than spectacle. Directing had always been his dream, and now nothing stood in his way.